welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So we're at the end of another year here in 2019, and I always think at the end of the year, one of the best things you can do with some of the things that you really like doing is just, make a couple points about some of the lessons that you may have learned throughout the year. That's always good because then next year you can focus on some things to improve on, and hopefully you can do sort of whatever it is that you're doing better in the coming year by sort of being reflective and thinking about some of the lessons that you learned throughout the last year. So that's what this video is kind of going to be all about. And I ended up coming up with like 4 key points. So before we get right into it here, I'll invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Still, at the early stages of the channel, I feel. So I want to get all the as many subscribers as we can. That'd be so appreciated if you could. So, so 4 things I learned this year buying CGC 9.8 books specifically. I would say more so because, that's what I've chosen to focus on this channel, and just kind of sort of by accident just buying all these CGC 9.8 books that I really love, I guess. So, as I said, 4 key points. So let's get into the first one. Got some books here I brought out too that are examples to kind of drill down some of these points. One of the things I learned in 2019 buying CGC 9.8 books is you don't always have to wait for auctions. I always thought, these fixed priced auctions and the best offer auctions, I always thought those sellers were probably just, they're looking for top dollar for their books. Like, it's not even worth it to even really look at them. And you wait for auctions, and then you're going to get probably more rare books and, decent prices because, they're only up for a couple days. And sometimes that's true, but I found that some of my more better deals lately have been sort of either fixed price or best offer books. And I think I overestimated the fact that, sometimes people just want like $400 or $300 or, however expensive the book is. And, they just want that cash. So a lot of times you can get it near the very low end of fair market value, which happened to me with this Batman Harley Quinn. CGC 9.8 white pages, really nice copy, really pristine case too. And I've seen these go for like $310, $320, $325, $290, and I ended up getting this for $290 in Canada for $290 US, and shipping was like $12. It was so cheap, and I ended up talking to him through messaging a little bit, and he was like, yeah, I just want to get rid of this book quick, basically. So those situations are some of the times where you can get the best deal on books, rather than waiting for auctions and being patient, which I kind of recommend a lot on this channel. But every now and then, especially, it's always great to like have that knowledge of the pricing market too, because then if a book pops up and it's near the low end of a price range and it's a book that you want and that it is and it's cheap shipping, then you can kind of jump on that right away, because those books don't last long usually. Maybe a week they'll last if they're competitively priced and if it's like a key issue that's got like a really big cult following of fans. So yeah. Number 1, you don't always have to wait for auctions, and it's definitely worth communicating to best offer sellers. I always even advocated in past videos for a buy it now. If you think it's kind of too high, message the seller and be like, hey, would you consider this price? Thanks for considering, and if you do, change the price ASAP, and I'll buy it right away, and I'll buy it ASAP. I kind of do, like, that's sort of my one line I've gotten some deals on as well, where it's just a buy now, no best offer. But if you just message them saying that, hey, I'll buy this right now for, maybe $100 cheaper than they have it, or, whatever, 10, 20% less. Sometimes people are like, yeah, you know what, like I need some money now for whatever other reason. And that can work at times. So, I do recommend still to be patient, wait for auctions, because I think auctions are good too. But certainly if there's a book out there and it's a nice copy and it's centered and it's looking really good, and it's definitely worth messaging or maybe throwing in an offer. And of course, do your research on the prices and stuff, obviously. So second thing I learned in 2019, is more just, I was thinking more about kind of the collector investor paradigm, I guess you could say, or like the interplay between collecting and investing. because when I first started the channel, like, even if you still look on the banner on our YouTube channel, it says like comic book investing. So that's sort of how I wanted to start the channel, because my background is investing in the stock market, and I've really, I've read a lot of books on the stock market. I've been interested in it since I was like 16, so it just delved right into that all throughout my 20s, read a lot of books. So starting this channel, I was like, this is a comic book investing channel. And but I think learning more and getting into it, I think the best way to invest in comic books is to buy like those 60s first appearances, like of Spider-Man and Hulk and Thor and all those great first appearances in the 60s, and like the best possible grades you can afford. That's probably the best way to invest in comics. And for me, that's just not for me. I brought out a book that illustrates this. I love Batman Beyond. I'm just a huge fan of the cartoon. And the fact that there's only like 100 and some odd, there's like 150 of these or something like that in the CGC 9.8, in kind of the first print UPC version. I just wanted that book so much. And, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'm a comic book investor only, and I only buy 60s books because realizing in 2019 that I'm a little bit more of a collector than, a pure comic book investor, which was like my initial thought. I'm kind of like a hybrid, I guess. And I think, most people are. And I think that's kind of the way to go. You want to buy what you love, buy what you're nostalgic for, buy what like gives you a big pride of ownership. Like, I definitely love just having like the 3 or 4 boxes full of the CGC 9.8 graded comics of all those like issues that I just really liked as a kid and really wanted as a kid, but most of the time you can't afford them. So that's what comic book investing or comic book collecting, whatever you want to call it, is more about for me. So yeah, realizing in 2019 I was kind of more of a collector investor rather than because I like Silver Age books and they're cool, but not much of a nostalgic connection. And these books are expensive, so like to plop down the money, thousands of dollars for a Silver Age book that I don't remember the cover from when I was a kid. And there's just certain nostalgia connections that I really like about comic books. So probably be sticking to like 80s and 90s throughout my collecting life. Probably maybe a couple cool Silver Age books. Who knows? You never know, right? You never know. But yeah, a good example is Batman Beyond, because I think it's a great investment grade book. But again, if you're kind of thinking about it from that comic book investor perspective only, you might overlook something like this. And yeah, again, for me, it's just more about buying what you love. So realizing I'm more of a collector investor, thinking about that as something I learned. So another thing is, number 3 here, out of the 4 things, buy an Overstreet price guide and get your hands on an Overstreet price guide or a price guide. I think it's a really great tool to have around, and I think I got 2 here from like past years, and they're just great tools to familiarize yourself with like all the key issues from the past, because there's so many. Like, comics, they're like, it's an ocean. It's not like a little lake or river. The comic book market, there's been so many over the years. And like, for me, I kind of like horror books actually, but I don't know much about them. But I'm kind of attracted to Dracula horror books, and I know like these comic book price guides are so great for just looking over the Tomb of Dracula back issues and just different horror books that I would have never known about, and just looking at the prices and some key issues you stumble on. And there's in these Overstreet price guides too, which I kind of would recommend, because they have the yearly commentary from all the Overstreet advisors before the price guide, and I love reading those. That's honestly, that is one of the big inspirations for this channel. A lot of those Overstreet blurbs before the price guide of their yearly commentary are similar to like how I envision talking on these videos. And they're kind of informative, and they're all about, prices and issues, and, a lot about the pricing market. And and I'm really interested in prices and markets, and just naturally for some reason. So, get yourself an Overstreet price guide. I always have 2 right under my kind of main table in my living room here. And anytime I need to check an issue, I just quickly, get it out. And, great resource. Rather, I know everything's digital, and I'm sure there's price guides online too. But with the commentaries before from these like guys who've been collecting comic books for 30, 40 years, like those are pretty much priceless commentaries if you're really, really into the hobby. So I wouldn't even say I learned this in 2019 because I've always really liked price guides. But if you don't have an Overstreet price guide, I would recommend to grab one. And there's one a year, so I think the new one comes out like sort of in the first 3-4 months of the year. Okay, that was the third thing I learned, and it's kind of not even learning, but I really wanted to make that point because I love price guides. Last thing is kind of like boring stuff we honestly preach about quite a bit, I guess, is you want to be careful buying during heavy promotional events because you're almost guaranteed to pay a higher price. Or at least, if you do buy a book during a promotional event, you kind of know that, and you'll be like, yeah, you know what, like, I want this book now, it's so cool, and maybe I am paying like $50 more, don't care, I don't care. And that, I would recommend doing that, honestly, like, if you have the money, and, I wouldn't, but just don't feel bad about it. It's like, know that you're doing it because, like, a good example right now is Avengers 196, first appearance of Taskmaster. So that book heated up a lot right after that Black Widow trailer, and it was kind of confirmed for sure that he's in the movie, looking really cool in it. So right now, this is kind of a book where like I literally want one in the CGC 9.8, like just flat out want one. Like a nice crisp copy would be so great. But if I ever come across one in an auction or whatever it might be, if I ended up winning it, like I'm pretty much reserved at, like if I wait 3 years, I could probably get it for like $200 or $300 cheaper probably. Once Black Widow's done, once it goes out on digital, once everyone's watched it, and there's new movies coming out, so like people are forgetting about Taskmaster, and then that's when you kind of would probably want to grab the issue, and I'm sure you can grab it for maybe $100 or $200 less for what it's going for now. Because I was, just thinking about this again. Wouldn't recommend buying after an announcement, after the trailer dropped, when there's shows out, when there's movies out, and there's like countless examples of books that I could have brought out. Yeah, Silver Surfer 44, first appearance of Infinity Gauntlet. Bought that for $230 during Avengers Endgame. Bought another one for $150 like 6 months later after Avengers Endgame was out of theater. And both were on auctions too, so I think they were both fair prices for the time, but once the promotion's done and out of theater, you get a better price. And that's certainly we talk about a lot, but it's worth mentioning, and because that's probably the biggest way if you are just kind of following the Disney announcements and then buying the books that they're announcing about and getting pumped up about everything and just buying what you're pumped up about because of usually heavy promotion from a big corporation. I wouldn't really recommend going about collecting that way. You just kind of buy what you love. And although Avengers 196, I wanted to make it as an example for this because this is a book that I kind of want. And hey, I pay $200 more or something for CGC 9.8 than it's going to go for once all the hype's done. Then that might be worth it for me. And again, I wouldn't feel bad about it, especially if you know you're doing it, because as long as you have the knowledge. And but for the most part, it is a pretty good idea to have a solid rule, like don't buy after an announcement or during a promotion or something like that, because you will end up just paying, you'll save money the other way a little bit more, and you can get a couple other books. So all right, and I've learned that the hard way, and I talk about that on the channel quite a bit. Okay, 4 things I learned. I think at the end of the year, you want to be reflective, and, I'm not much of like a New Year's resolution type person, but, you definitely want, I think at the end of the year, it is a good time to kind of just reflect on things and see what you learned, and then try to be better for the next year, but kind of make it like a permanent thing. Definitely wouldn't kind of recommend New Year's resolutions, because it's a kind of temptation to be temporary on things a little bit, where, as you can just, do things better. And, for what we're talking about here, comic books, you watch a comic book YouTube channel, you're probably really serious about comic book collecting like I am. So, 4 things I learned, and I specialize always buying these CGC 9.8s, and there's always some little tidbits, and that's what I kind of wanted to accomplish in today's video. Just get a couple things I've learned and share it with you guys. So yeah, thanks so much for watching today. And if you haven't already, yeah, I invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8 and hit the bell, get all their latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too. And yeah, I'm more active on Instagram, but yeah, all the links are in the description below for all that stuff. Thanks for watching though today, and maybe we'll have another video before 2019. Who knows? Might take tomorrow off. We'll see. Thank you very much for watching, though. I'll see you on the next one.